Welcome back, everyone, to the Qualified Podcast. With me today is Patrick McCormack, here to talk about his business, Highrise Service Group, or HSG for short. Patrick, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. So, little background on yourself. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the capital, and I still live here today.
Excellent. What's the best part about the city that you live in?
As the capital city, it's very government heavy, so it's sort of recession proof to a certain point. So especially if we're talking more business wise, it's constantly it's the odds of it being impacted by a recession or anything of that sort of diminishes. But if we're thinking more activity wise, it's a pretty busy city. We're uh, well over 1 million people now, so it's there's always things to do around here.
Excellent. And I mean, for your business, it can't get much better than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with everyone that's constantly working and don't really have time to do
Yeah.
services around their house. It's a huge bonus for you. As I've done an interview with someone in the past who had their cleaning service in Washington, D.C. They had the same thing to
The same
say.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were younger, did you know you wanted to own a business, or were you more into something else?
I did. I wasn't sure what that business would be. I sort of just stumbled upon cleaning later. But yeah, as a kid, there was always that feeling that I wanted to do something business related, own, manage, whatever it was. But I wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to do at that point.
Did you have anybody in your family who was a business owner that you could kind of follow in their footsteps and get some guidance along the way?
Yeah, my dad owned a security business for I believe close to 15 years
Okay.
when I was a kid. As time progressed, he ended up working for another security company. But yeah, so I grew up very much in a household where my dad was constantly working and doing things to better his company, and I spent a lot of time at his office and things like that. So definitely grew up in sort of a entrepreneurial household.
Definitely a good thing to have when you
Yeah,
know you want to be in business later on. You could kind of get those questions figured out early and know
absolutely.
the ins and outs. So what's your background? Did you go to college for business or
No, actually. So after high school, I went to school to be an electrician, and I found that that wasn't exactly the path I wanted to pursue. So I spent a few years working in the federal government, as most people from Ottawa do. And to be honest, it just wasn't for me. I found that I spent a lot of time just sitting at the desk and doing computer work. And I mean, now it just so happens that I end up doing that as well now. But there's that secondary motive when it's not just financially motivating. When you own your own company, it's also sort of you're building something that will hopefully end up being bigger than you one day. But when you're sort of working for the government, at least in my experience, it was more of a tedious task and sort of just pen and paper computer work all day. And so after that,
it
that's when
got
I
bored?
opened. Exactly.
It got
Absolutely.
bored.
Absolutely. And then that it was around that point that I decided that I should open sort of a cleaning company, and from there that's where we are today.
So let's jump into HSG then. When did you first start it?
Yeah, so officially opened in 2016 under a different name. So the company was called Get It Made Cleaning, and
Okay.
we were a residential and commercial cleaning company as well. But our focus was mainly on we did single family homes and townhouses, and then we also did some commercial work such as restaurants, which led to where we are today because during COVID, we had to the restrictions were put up, and then we had to sort of quickly shift what we were like, where our focus was, having restaurants as clients. Those, as much as there was a short period at the beginning of COVID where the restaurants weren't even allowed dine-in. It was strictly takeout, here at least. And because of that, the dining rooms didn't really need to be cleaned, and certain areas. And so it cut a lot of our tasks in half, if not even just entirely, because a lot of restaurants just ended up getting their own people to sanitize things continuously throughout the day, that they didn't really need anyone to come in after hours to do those deep cleanings that we would usually take care of. So around that time, I quickly shift over to Highrise Service Group, which we mainly focused on at the beginning, apartments and condo buildings, which had a constant need for, both in the residential and the commercial side, a constant need for cleaning during those, give or take, 2 years up until about a year ago, where we weren't entirely sure what how I guess COVID and the pandemic as a whole was going to affect the cleaning industry.
So, inspiration to start a service business, especially a cleaning service. I know you kind of touched on wanting to leave the political area and not be around that.
Yeah.
But was there more to that?
There was. So at the time, my fiance and I opened up Get It Made Cleaning together. So her mother ran a cleaning company. She came here from Poland many years ago, but that's what she did for a living when she moved here. And then over time, as she got older, she was looking more towards leaving that industry and just retiring. And so she had maybe about a handful of clients at that point. And that was sort of the beginning of Get It Made at that time, which eventually turned into Highrise.
It's nice to have somebody in the family that could kind of guide you
Absolutely.
with that and show you, again, like I said, your dad showing you the in and outs of business as a whole, but now your mother-in-law showing you the ins and outs of the industry specifically, and knowing, okay, this is how you make it viable and things like that. So how much did you end up investing when you first started?
So at the time, we just the basics. I think maybe $45 into QuickBooks. At the time, it was a different scheduling software. Or actually, at the time, it was just like Google Calendar, just vacuum and a few cleaning products that you would get off the shelf. But when we first started, to lower actual cost, we did it more where we would use the client's products and less about us bringing our own stuff. So that does help lower the cost at that point. It's mainly just registering, opening a company, and sending, either myself or at that time Caroline, who was my fiance at the time, to go clean said houses. So I would say probably looking around the $200, $300 mark, just to get things started with some basic cleaning supplies and maybe a vacuum at that point. Yeah.
So super low.
Yeah.
Entry.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
At minimal spot. My question though, how was it using the customer's supplies and kind of just bringing that up to them that, all right, we'll send our people, but we're going to use your stuff?
Yeah. So it was, I mean, looking back at it, it does make things more complicated, at least in my opinion, because when we have our own products and our own supplies, whether that's equipment, supplies, whatnot, it's a lot better to, like, we're trained on it. We know which ones work best in what situations. At this point, we do a lot of testing on different supplies and equipment and what would work best for our clients, as opposed to them, when you have the client pick, they tend to have a vacuum that doesn't always perform the very best. The supplies they have tend to just be generic ones that you see the most commercials about on television, as opposed to maybe better, more eco-friendly products, or things that work better, that from companies that you just haven't heard of or don't have the marketing budget, or local companies. So it was a little different having to tell them, but around here, I'm not sure if this is everywhere, but around here, it's not out of the norm for cleaning companies to especially contractors based companies mainly to just offer people to do the cleaning, not so much to have the supplies. So it wasn't that complicated to try to explain it to people. Most people do have cleaning supplies already. It was just a matter of learning each one based off of which clients, the client you're going to, as opposed to just knowing now today we have, that's the bathroom cleaner and that's the one we use everywhere. We don't have to learn a new product every time we go to a different client's place.
Right. Or, I mean, there's the chance you're risking of sending a cleaner and there's 3 squirts of Windex left in
Yeah,
the bottle.
that too. That too.
Must be a little nerve-wracking sometimes, or was back then.
Yeah, it didn't last very long. I do remember that fairly quickly we started to just incorporate our own stuff, and then converting clients over it wasn't all that complicated, especially because we went straight to eco-friendly and biodegradable products right off the bat. So it just pitching them our supplies really wasn't all that hard of a task at that point.
And do you make exceptions like one time or whatever?
Yeah.
Like if it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, my kid's allergic to something,
Yeah.
could you use just this?
Yeah, absolutely. If ever the client leaves, as long as it's in a labeled bottle with instructions and all that sort of stuff, it can't just be left in a generic spray
Homemade
bottle.
mixture.
Right, exactly. Or at least if there is, like, tell us what's in it so we know. But yeah, it's if there's bleach in a spray bottle, we're definitely not going to touch it just because we're not 100% sure what it is. But yeah, if it's like a store-bought product or anything like that, we just let the client know that sort of voids part of our satisfaction guarantee depending on what the product is. If it's like a floor cleaner, for example, and the floors end up incredibly streaky and it's a product that they haven't used in the past before, then it's on a case-by-case basis, of course, but sometimes it does void some sort of our satisfaction guarantee within that specific, like when that product's being used.
Okay. Challenges. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced being a business owner, and how'd you overcome them?
So, I mean, I think, I don't want to sound cliche, but I think the biggest one has been COVID, all in all. Second biggest, definitely hiring new staff, growing, just things like that. So COVID, we sort of went over already, how we navigated that, changed up sort of the entire company really, and that helped a lot during that time because we were closed for about two months. So at the very beginning, from March 2020 until around May, we were pretty much completely closed with the exception of a few clients. And then during that time is when I rebranded entirely. And then the second thing being hiring. I think that's a constant, no matter who you are at this, especially today, where you go to McDonald's and they have a sign on their door that says like closed, no staff.
Crazy.
It's telling, right? Like it just goes to show that it's everywhere, and it's not just necessarily in the cleaning industry or any industry. But yeah,
absolutely,
you can still find great staff. It's just you have to look a little bit harder than you used to, and you have to. We've had to change sort of our incentives and our rates and things like that to get better staff. But
kind of goes hand in hand with COVID happening.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
COVID happened, and everyone realized after that couple year span that working yourself to the bone all the time is not how life should be. So it has been harder on businesses, but if you figure out your hiring process and know the ideal candidate you want, you're going to find great people either way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no doubt. It's just something where you used to be able to, you'd get maybe 200 applicants on Indeed. Maybe we're getting closer to 40 or 50 now. It's not to say that there's no one out there, and like people still want to work. It's just not as we're not getting as much intake as we were. There was a time pre-COVID.
It's a little more, takes a little more time to
Yeah,
find the right candidate.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think because everyone's going through the same issue, a lot of companies, bigger companies than I, have bigger budgets put into finding staff now. So like sponsored ads on Indeed or Google or whatnot. They're definitely being overtaken by much larger, even cleaning companies in my local area. I'm definitely not the biggest one out here, and so those people tend to have bigger budgets, and then those result in being maybe put up closer to the top. Yeah,
And
but
it
like I
also
said, oh sorry, go ahead.
takes the applicant is now, I guess, would say choosing more
Mhm.
like businesses. They're trying to find the right fit for them. It's not
Right.
they're just applying to
Yeah.
100 different things and being like, okay, they're kind of interviewing the business too to make sure
Yeah.
it fits for them and their lifestyle as well.
Yeah, like at some point, I remember growing up and having to fill out like a 3 or 4 page document just to even apply for Walmart or Subway or
Yeah.
whichever franchise. Um, and now it's like you go on Indeed and I'm not even sure you even have to click into the job at this point. You can just click apply, and that resume gets sent out to hundreds of companies that are all in the same situation as everyone else, and they're looking for staff. And so I can only imagine the amount of interviews that you could get just by spending a couple of days on Indeed and applying. Which is why, like, if when we find a good applicant, we have to move fast. There's no Whereas opposed to before, it was like, okay, you know what, we can. I have a few more interviews this week. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to do those ones just to make sure that that's if there's only one spot, for example, and just to make sure that that's really the right applicant. At this point, it's sort of like that's the right one. Like we sort of move on it that same day just to make sure that because they're going to get opportunities elsewhere.
For sure. I mean, you said it about Indeed. You just upload your as an applicant, you just upload your resume and hit apply and
Yeah,
it'll send it out within 5 seconds. So
exactly.
well, you talked about your competitors a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you doing differently than them? How are you standing out?
Yeah, so right now we're the only condo and apartment focused cleaning company in Ottawa. That's not to say that we won't take single family homes, townhouses, things like that. It's just that we're not necessarily advertising for them. If they come along, we'll do them anyways. But our advertising goals definitely are pushed more towards apartments and condos. So I think that definitely gives us a bit of an edge because when we used to do apartments or like the odd apartment or condo prior to rebranding, it's a lot of stuff that you have to bring up to like go up to the 22nd floor of a building and things like that. Where we've sort of designed our business around having everything very compact into a few little storage bins, and we have like these professional looking bags with wheels, and so everything is just as easy whether you're parking directly into the driveway of a client's home and bringing things in as opposed to going up, walking through the lobby, having to take the elevator, going to that 22nd and 23rd floor of a building, and then doing the cleaning there. So that's what sets us apart. I think we're more inclined to get apartments and condos within this area than the next person, mainly because of the name as well. It's very focused on those.
So would you say there's any difference in your opinion, is there any difference in cleaning a condo or apartment versus a house?
Not necessarily. I do think that it does take. We do mainly solo work, so we'll send one cleaner up because we have like our one bedroom apartment building. Our one bedroom apartments don't necessarily have the room for two people. You end up just walking over each other's work or stepping over each other's toes. So I would say that's the main difference between just a smaller unit and a big home. Besides that, it's all the same. We use the same checklist, the same products, the same equipment. Everything's the same, whether it's an apartment or it's 3-story home.
So you're trying to focus more, I guess, on that quality of
Right.
the cleans,
Yep.
having the one cleaner, just more attention to detail and knock it out, I guess, quicker than you would if you had them in a single
Exactly.
family home.
Yeah, yeah. So we're like a single family home. We tend to send two cleaners just because it can get overwhelming, especially if it's a one time cleaner or something along those lines, as opposed to a smaller condo. Even if the max a condo can really take is about 4 or 5 hours if it's in an extremely poor shape, as opposed to a single family home can take well over uh, 10, 15 working hours if they're if it's a lived in home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to make a really tough decision that had a big impact on the business? Would you
Um,
say it would be the transition from
yeah,
COVID?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, at that time, I wasn't 100% sure how things were going to go. So when I first opened, or when I first the first time that I thought about changing it to high rise, it was going to be more like an agency and less like just having employees and things like that. So I had reached out to dog walkers, laundromats, um, cleaning companies, a whole bunch of other services around, and I was trying to see if I could make some sort of a website that people could go on. Similar, like there's websites for this everywhere, but make this one more focused again for apartments and condos, where people can go book whether it's dog walking, cleaning services, laundry services. There was a list of other stuff there as well, but I decided that the safest bet was to just continue on with employees and sort of continue what we were doing originally and just sort of keep working on it. So that's how that process changed. But there was definitely a time, there was a gap period in there where I'd pretty much designed the entire company to be more like an agency, and then I converted it back to where, because I did have some staff that left during COVID. They went and found other positions or things like that. Sorry, during when I say during COVID, I mean that 2 month period that we had to close down due to government mandates and whatnot. Um, and then some did come back. So the ones that came back they were the launch of the new company, and it made things pretty easy because they were already trained prior to just to do single family homes and townhouses. But like we said, it's very similar in style when it goes from one to the other.
And I'm sure they didn't complain as much or at all, if at
No,
all,
yeah,
saying that you were going to focus on smaller areas and it was just going to be one of them at a time. They
yeah,
can,
no, not at all. Because the original plan was it was going to open building by building. So we had started off with two buildings that were next to each other, and they were connected by the third floor, so that it would make things easy whenever we'd only have to check into the building once, and then we could do 5 or 6 units within that same building. So we put so I had to do a lot of advertising locally within that building, like putting posters up on like the bulletin boards, and just trying to get, once we got our first client, seeing if they knew of any other clients, and so on and so forth. And that's where it started. And so for the first maybe 2 3 months, it was just putting more focus onto into those buildings there, in hopes that I could eventually get someone working full time there, and then I could move on to advertising at a different building that had multiple units, and maybe have someone else work there full time, things like that. Logistically, it didn't. It sort of, like, I'd say it sort of worked. We definitely didn't get full time hours out of that one building, but we got a good amount, to the point where, like, that was where someone was stationed. And then I just opened it up to the public at that point. So whoever lived in condos and apartments could call us, and then we would go back to the same way as we did pre-COVID, where we would drive from home to home, doing it that way, as opposed to just parking once, bringing the stuff in, and then doing multiple units within the same building.
and how long did you have it that way where it was just the one area, one building
Um,
or the
yeah,
two buildings connected?
probably about I'd say about 2 months. two
Okay.
months I focused it that way. During that time, I was still sort of trying to see how, if an agency portion of it could work, like if I could just keep doing that same building. We would run the cleaning, but then maybe there were other services that we could, because I knew a lot of our clients had dog walkers and stuff like that, because when we go grab our keys downstairs, and there would be multiple keys with multiple labels, so like you could see who else they had like a key left out for. So some would say like dog walking or things like that. So I knew there was a need for those services there. I just wasn't sure how I could get it off the ground. And then once I decided to just open it up throughout Ottawa, we just got too busy that I haven't actually been able to go back. And at this point, I'm not sure if I would. It's just maybe eventually, but it's just not in the works at the moment.
How do you prioritize your time as a business owner?
That's a loaded question. To be honest, I just do things once at a time. Like I have a bit of a routine. Every morning I look at my emails right away, and then I delete all the spam, which there's a lot of it, and then the rest is I go from bottom to top. So like the most recent last, and I just deal with whatever those emails. Whatever I need to do with those emails. And then I look at the work schedule as well for that day. I make sure that everything's accurate. And then from there, it's more of a matter of day-to-day tasks, whether it's make sure we have enough products, enough equipment. Our equipment's like well maintained, cleaning up vacuums, doing laundry, things like that. But the first hour and a half of the day is always the same. It's always just emails, phone calls, and if ever there's anything with the schedule that needs to be changed.
Going into your leadership style, how would you say yours is?
Laid back would probably be the best way I would describe it. I hire very like-minded people. That's one of the main things to me when I go into an interview. To me, it doesn't matter if you tell me you've been cleaning for 15 years or if you've never held a mop up. To me, that part doesn't matter at all, because to me, it's more customer service wise. I always figure I can train people on how to clean, but you can't always train someone's personality. So because of that, to me, like that's the main thing. And so all my employees are very like-minded, so we can have conversations about pretty much anything. And I know nobody will get either offended or uncomfortable or things like that, just because we are really just like we're a small team, and we're all pretty much the same people at the end of the day.
Almost impossible to change somebody's personality.
Exactly.
And that's something that is not in, as an owner, your job description, or do you ever want it to be?
Yeah.
You could just move on from that candidate to the next, and
Exactly.
they'll fit in somewhere better, and they're just not your ideal hire. So
Right. Yeah. That's exactly it, right? It's just because you have to think someone might come in with a resume that has 15 years of cleaning experience, but if they're going to cause either a toxic work environment, or if they go into a client's house, and when the client's home, they just sort of walk in with their head down and they go straight to work. It doesn't build that connection with the client. I can only do so much from the back end. I'll answer the phone, I'll answer emails, I'll do as much customer service wise as I can. But the main person who's meeting the clients has to be able to actually have conversations with them and build a connection to be able to keep that client for a long time.
For sure. Like you said, they can have 15 years experience, but if they go in to clean somebody's house and the customer says, "Oh, do you mind doing it this way?" and they have a short temper and snap on them,
it doesn't look good for anybody. Yeah.
So how do you keep this positive company culture going in the business?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just about the people you hire. They tend to and keeping the same thing when it comes to clients. I guess I've been in the industry almost just about 6 years now. So you learn, even just by talking to certain people on the phone, the clients that will also match I guess your value, your company values. You do have some where right away on the phone you know that it's not going to be necessarily a good fit and things like that. And so it's almost like it's as much about employees as it is clients. And for us so far, we've been pretty lucky, honestly, with clients and both employees as well.
That's huge. Anybody
Yeah,
who's just starting out, that's one thing that they should take away is, I mean, I mention it almost in every interview because it always comes up that not every client is going to be yours.
right.
And
Mhm.
the, if you could start with that mindset from the beginning and
Well,
know
it'd be yeah,
you're going to save yourself so many headaches and it's just going to go so much smoother for you. Um, but with the positive company culture, hiring the right people and going through that
yeah,
is a huge starting point. But
yeah,
is there anything specific that you do, team events
yeah.
or meetings or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have an office where everyone comes here on the morning that they work. They pick up the supplies, their equipment. It's never like one of those areas where people show up and then I rush them out. Like if you want to have a seat, you want to have a chat, then by all means, we and then it's often that we have um, discussions as a group, whether even just one-on-ones. And I always tell people that this office can be like a safe space for them. So if ever, even after work hours, if you need a spot to go, just, you have a key to the office, just come in and take a seat or take a nap, whatever works for you. So I think that makes this space very comfortable for people. And then we also do team events once in a while where the most recent one was like a laser tag day, and then we've also done where there's like a smash room, but we purchased the car and we just all destroyed the as much as we could of a early or late '90s Buick,
Oh my gosh.
as much as we could of it. So yeah, no, it was good. Like it's good team building for anyone who's looking for an activity. I guess look in your area to see if it is something that's available, because it's a good way to let out some frustration as well and have fun. And no, definitely recommend it.
I'm a lot of people who are getting into this industry with starting a service-based business are trying to go the more remote approach.
Hmm.
No office,
Yeah,
maybe not even live in the same city that they're starting in, which is fine. It's no knock to that.
yeah,
But this is one thing that you're doing, which is huge in keeping your employees.
yeah,
And getting the right employees is the start, and then keeping them happy. And then this just funnels into getting that recurring business back because it
right.
shows in their work. They're happy to come back to work for you,
Yeah,
and less complaints, less and less turnover for hiring and
right.
so forth. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I'm not able to. I thought about the remote work at some point. It's just not. It's not for me. Like I also like having a space where as much as possible, as much as a business owner can, sort of disconnect. I go home. At home, I just pretty much have access to my emails and my texts, and occasionally I'll take a peek. But besides that, like this, when I'm at the office, that's when it's work time, and then when I'm at home, I can sort of disconnect as much as one can. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I love having this office, is being able to say hi to my employees every day and see how they're doing, and I think that really does help the overall company culture.
COVID changed that
Hmm.
very quickly, turned
Yes.
it on its head where everything was remote.
Hmm.
And that seemed to be the next big thing. Zoom became huge. All these,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're, I'm in Chicago, you're in Canada. We're doing this podcast, two different
Right.
countries, but that's a little different. When it comes to actual work, I feel like the work from home is starting, if not has already started to die down,
Yes.
and more people would like to go back to the office. just like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Having that divide, being home is being home and not having to worry about work. When you work from home, very quickly will that line blur of, okay, my couch is also my office. If you don't have, or my dining room table is my office.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of turn your brain off when you're constantly at home.
Absolutely.
For me, it's a little different. I live in a apartment complex, so we have shared spaces. So I guess I could leave mine apart, but not leaving the building.
Right.
Still work from home. So
I mean, some people can do it, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people who work from home, and they can somehow, like, if they have a spare bedroom, they can turn that into their office, and that's really where things end. At the end of the day, they turn that computer off, and then their work mind is just, it's turned off as well, and they're back to just life. But I find as a business owner, it's not that easy. Even with an office, it's not easy at all. I just had to, I have to move I moved my printer here. I moved everything I possibly could, so that even if I am at home and there is something that I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that, then I think, I need the printer. So then it's like, I'll just do it tomorrow. So there are these little things that I've been able to do to make it so that I work less at home than I used to. But there was definitely a point where it was pretty close to 24/7 almost focused.
Or at least having 2 days a week where you work from home, and then the rest going into the office. A nice little split, fine. But the constant, it's tough, and it becomes hard to focus at times. If you have a dog, if you have kids,
exactly,
they come in, they mess your whole flow up, and it's hard to get back into. With setbacks and failures, how have you handled those?
I mean, I'm sure we've definitely had some setbacks, like any company. I'm sure, like, you get complaints and feedback and stuff like that. And sometimes I've, as much as I was talking about having such a great company culture and employees who value me and the company, I've hired some within that time that just were not great matches. And so those, I learned to constantly hire, like constantly look at the very least, because even though you do an interview and you can do a background check, reference check, people can show up to work and just not be that same person that they were, whether it was on Zoom or when you met them in real life for the interview. And so, I mean, I think that would be the probably the thing that I would say would be the biggest struggle that we've had. But yeah, it's more of a, like, acknowledge it and then just turn the page, like, just see what we can do better so that these things don't happen again, whether it's a mistake, feedback, or even if it's something on my end where we've done some advertising that just didn't really work all that great. But you can't get too upset over things, because I mean, I tried it. So you move on, and not to do it again, or maybe you change the way that you did it so that things work better in the future.
Try not to dwell on it too long.
Exactly.
Just, like you said, it does nothing. Stick with it for a little bit, acknowledge it happened, figure out your next step, how not to do it next time, and move on. There's no point in sitting on it for so long that does nothing for you.
Yeah, exactly. If anything, it's just delaying you from making the changes that need to be done.
Absolutely. Work-life balance. How do you handle that? I mean, you have the office, you moved everything over there so that you could separate the two.
Yeah.
But how are you handling it? What are you doing to make sure you have that separation?
So I'm handling it good now. As in the early stages, when you first open a company, I think it's really hard to find that line.
It's almost
Because
impossible.
almost impossible, absolutely, because you really want it to succeed. It's something new, right? It's like a new toy, or even like a new video game where you're almost, I don't want to say addicted, well, sort of addicted to
You're
it, right?
hooked. It's like, it's almost
Exactly.
like a drug.
Yeah, you constantly want to do it. You constantly want to see what'll happen next, and so you put so much time into it. But the reality is that very little in our industry happens after 5 o'clock, anyways. So I at some point I had just found myself staring at a computer screen trying to figure out what to do, but there was nothing to do. Right, you're just sitting there pulling your hair out, looking at the schedule, trying to find ways to fill it up, or whatever it is. And I find that I remember the first year the company was around, it wasn't performing as well as what I had hoped it would. And so you do spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's causing that, or why you're not hitting the goals that you necessarily place for yourself. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do, because I do think it's good to at least brainstorm. I just think it's a bad thing to do where you spend all your energy focused on that, because as soon as I stopped worrying about it as much, things just picked up. It's almost one of those things where, like, you put so much focus into it that you forget about other parts of the company that might actually be the ones that might actually help. And whenever you stop focusing on I guess what's wrong, and you just start focusing more on what I can do, then things just, clients will appear and whatnot.
Would you say that helps with your motivation and maintaining your drive?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It's yeah.
Anything else that helps you stay on track?
Regarding like work-life balance, for me, it's like sports and stuff, right? Like I do quite a bit of sports at night, so there's opportunities where you don't necessarily have your phone or laptop on you, definitely help. And it's just just don't start yanking your hair out staring at a screen if there's nothing to do. There was a book that I read quite some time ago. It's called Play It Away. And it's anytime you start getting anxious over work or anything like that, just as long as it's not like a really urgent matter, just sort of minimize the page, go do a quick activity, whether it's 5-10 minutes, and then come back, and you'll realize that you're just filled with ideas that you wouldn't have had if you just stared at that screen thinking about it over and over again. Almost like your brain works on things without you noticing, while you're doing other activities that are more enjoyable and less stressful. And then once you come back to the computer or to whatever task you were doing, you find that you're filled with ideas and things that will help you going forward.
I've started doing that myself recently, and I've noticed, like you said, 5 to 10 minutes, no more than that, come back. And I've found that when I come back, it's like the floodgates open, and you can
exactly
get back into it. And 1 hour, 2 hours, just nonstop going, and then you might need it again, 5-10 minutes, which is okay. I feel everybody sees social media these days, and whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk or somebody else who's like, you got to be constant and just nonstop, eat, sleep, everything, just business focused. That's all it's got to be. It's like, it's not sustainable.
No.
And there's going to be times where you have really nothing to do. So it's okay to give
exactly.
Don't think that you're a crappy business person and you're gonna fail just because you took a 5 or 10 minute break to step away. To give your mind needs rest, especially if you're staring at a computer screen for 8 to 12 hours a day. On the flip side of that, motivation and drive towards the business instead of in your personal life.
Like what keeps me motivated business wise, or what keeps the business going?
How do you stay motivated and maintain your drive on the business side of things?
For me, it's So coming from working with the government prior to, I learned that they're not to bash anyone who does work for the government in Canada by any means, but it's not as easy as someone like working hard and then someone coming and tapping your shoulder and saying, "Hey, you're getting a promotion." Right? It's very structured, as opposed to this business wise. As far as I'm concerned, like my possibilities are endless. The more work that I put in, the more opportunity that might open up and go from there. So I think working in an environment where things are more structured and you don't necessarily always get rewarded for the work you put in. This here, when you own your own company, it's really just it's unlimited, and it's the excitement to, like, I don't know where I'm going to be in a couple months or a couple years or even next week. It's really just trying to figure things out and seeing where things go.
When you have that 9 to 5, like you said, you wake up, you go in,
Yeah,
it's mundane. You're kind of in a rut. You
yeah,
know what you have your tasks, you got to get them done. But honing your own business, every single day is something new, whether
absolutely.
it's good or bad. You could have a
Yeah,
customer come in and give you a complaint and it can change your whole day,
yeah,
or the complete opposite. You can, in your case, you could get a contract with a condo association that's got 1,000 units,
yeah,
and you now have 1,000 new customers that you could constantly be emailing and doing things of that nature. So
yeah.
it for sure is a huge difference. How are you balancing the short-term goals of your business with your long-term vision?
So like the short term, yeah. So when it to be completely honest with you, I don't necessarily create as many short term goals as I probably should. I do have like a long term vision on where I see the company. Um, Obviously, I set myself like daily goals on the things that I need to do, but I don't necessarily create, whether that's financial or even like I want this many clients by next month or things like that. My vision of what the company is, it is more to like the scale of I'd love to be able to move, maybe not move the company, but at least expand to Toronto, which is the biggest city within a 5 hour drive of me, and there's more condos and apartments there than anything else. It's the majority of it is, if you have a home there, you're in the outskirts. So because of that, I think that there's a lot more money and a lot more competition there as well. And I think it'd be super interesting to see where, like, how the company would do there, and the ways that I could change the way the company is to, like, compared to the existing clients, because I mentioned that I'm the only company that does apartments and like that focuses the majority of the time on apartments and condos in Ottawa. But if you go to somewhere like Toronto, there's probably close to 100 other companies that are doing the exact same thing. And so for me, it's like the goal is definitely to move to a bigger city and to see if I can expand, or even just a different location as a whole. I would love to have the company just have multiple branches and whatnot. But whether it's like financial goals or things like that, I don't necessarily have any, to be completely honest with you. I just sort of let things go as they go. And I mean, I do look at the numbers after every month, compare it to our expenses and things like that. But I don't have any like set in stone long term or even short term goals when it comes to clients or finances and stuff like that.
Would you say it's the reason you don't is because of the uncertainty? Kind of like COVID came out of nowhere and flipped everything up?
Yeah, I mean it's possible. I haven't actually, to be quite honest, I've never really thought about it, so I'm not 100% sure why I don't set goals more often. I think it's because there was a time where, like, I did have I would set goals and things like that, and I realized that maybe for me I exaggerate them a little bit too much, and so they almost come back as disappointing.
Unattainable?
Yeah, exactly. And so now I've just learned to go with the flow. As long as every month by month we grow slowly, but slowly or quickly, I'm happy with it. It's more about long-term growth for me as opposed to short-term. So I'm just riding the wave as it comes.
That's one question I always love to ask.
Yeah.
Are you happy? And a lot of people
Absolutely.
don't get asked that, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm firing all these questions at you to learn about you, but in the grand scheme of things, are you happy with
Yeah.
business and just everything?
Yeah, I'm gonna say today, yes, but like there was times in the past where you definitely you definitely go through like a roller coaster of emotions as anybody would for anything, but like when it comes to business, going back to work-life balance, until you figure out how to manage that, you're pretty much a roller coaster because you want to spend as much time as you can doing work, and then that tends to lead to just being overworked or overstressed or whatever the case is, and then it can sometimes knock you out for a couple of days, right? Where you just don't even want to work at all, and your
Yeah,
productivity is at an all-time low, and so you'd much rather just keep it balanced and be able to do it forever, as opposed to just putting a bunch of work in a lot for like a week and then crashing for a couple of days afterwards. So yeah, I would say that today, like I'm definitely happy, and I'm excited to go to work every day because, like you said, it's something new. There's the possibility of anything any day, and I have a great team that I genuinely enjoy hanging out with. So to me,
that's
going
great.
into the office every morning isn't, even on Monday mornings, it's not like a tedious task. It's sort of like, oh, okay, well, these are the people who are working Monday morning. Awesome. Like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to see them, and we're going to have a little chit chat before everyone goes off. And then once everyone goes off, then that's when the work starts on the back end for me. But yeah, no, it's definitely in a good place.
Excellent. What have been some of the most important lessons that you've learned as a business owner?
Um, hmm. I mean, I could think of one thing as like starting out, get a an accounting software like early. It does save you a lot of trouble when it comes to later on, whether that's like um, I guess depending on where you live, you have different taxes and things like that that need to be paid, and so it's a lot easier if you just start off right off the bat with an accounting software. Um, that's definitely like the first thing that if I were to have to redo it all over again, that would probably be the one thing that I would change.
And that's, I don't want to say crazy to hear, but some people might think, well, so early on, I might not be getting so many bookings. I
Yeah,
may be making, a couple $100 a month in revenue. I think it's fine. I don't need it, but you don't know. And it just, as much as you can make your life easier from the beginning,
yeah.
go for it. Do it. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's something that's important, right? You don't want to mess with, forget your taxes, or forget to, especially when you use QuickBooks or one of those softwares. It can be used for your payroll as well, T4 management, whatever it is. It does it pretty much everything. And so even if you are a small company starting out, and you just have a few gas receipts or cleaning product receipts or things like that, it's so much easier just having them all in that one place. And certain softwares tend to come with like a discount for the first 6 months, for example. So even if you are on the lower end of like your finances and things like that, and you're cutting it pretty close to budgets and stuff, it's, in my opinion, like you have that discount in place so that you can start off, and then by the time that promotion's done, you should be good to go, and you don't have to stress out about your keeping receipts or filing taxes or things like that.
No matter if you do your taxes or you have an accountant doing your taxes, Whoever's doing it is going to love you either way because
Absolutely.
it's going to make their
Absolutely.
jobs. You're going to
Yeah.
love yourself for doing it, or your accountant's going to love you for doing it because it's
And at
going
the
to
end of the
save.
day, it's going to save you money
Yeah.
anyways, because if you have to give your accountant a stack of receipts, it's going to take them forever to
Yeah.
claim everything and file and put all that. So if you're doing it little by little as things come around, and now you can do it from your cell phone by just snapping a picture of the receipt and it'll take all the info. It'll in some cases even save you money as opposed to paying an accountant who charges a lot per hour
For
to
sure.
take care of those things. Yeah.
Or you could even auto upload like digital receipts from
Yeah.
like Amazon and just
Yeah. Oh yeah.
transfer it over and you have it there. Going now towards hiring, do you
Yes.
have employees or contractors?
Employees, no
Employee.
contractors. Yeah.
Okay. And how many office staff and how many are doing the work?
Yeah. So I have one office staff that works part time. So she does part time office work and then part time cleans. At this point, her work actually cleaning is mainly quality control, or if we have like a big client or a last minute client, things like that. But yeah, her main job is working in the office, and then she still does some cleans for me on the side because she was a cleaner before. Like that's I gave her a promotion to come work into the office at that point. But yeah, so I have just the one, excluding myself, I have the one office staff, and then I have 4 or 5 out on the road, and then I also have one that works at who works specifically at one condo building, doing the general cleaning of the common areas. So like the elevators, the hallways, things like that. So we're contracted by the property manager for that building.
And where do you do your hiring? Strictly Indeed, or do you
Yeah,
go other places?
yeah. So we mainly focus on Indeed, and we constantly have a post up. It's constantly getting new applicants, and we try to update it as often as we can. I don't often pay to upgrade or to sponsor the ad. I tend to just do a couple interviews every week and then try my best to organize the ones that we want to keep their resumes in the odd chance, and then as soon as a job comes up or a position opens up, then at least I have a stack. And sometimes those people will find jobs elsewhere, other times they'll still be available, or they're at, even if sometimes they're at a position already and they just don't like it. And so even if it's a month past when you interviewed them, in my opinion, it's always worth at least giving them another, giving them a call to see if they are still looking for work or things like that.
So your post is always up. You're never
Correct.
not hiring, which
Yeah.
I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And what, especially with the struggles in this industry, is hiring and the marketing is
Yeah.
getting more jobs. Always having a post running and always hiring, it's just going to save you the headache because by the time you need a cleaner or a contractor or
Yeah.
whatever industry you're in, by the time you get them onboarded and going, it's going to be, you're going to be losing revenue on extra bookings that you could have had.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Sometimes you get a call and you needed you needed a new cleaner yesterday, right? Like it can be a very fast paced hiring process if the right contract comes around, or if you have an employee who just gets a new position, goes back home, family's sick, name the reason. I've heard it all at this point. So it's not unlikely for someone to say, hey, um, my son's ill or something, I can't work anymore. And then those situations, it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, great, so you can work the 2 weeks. It's really like, hey, like today's my last day. Like I have to prioritize my family, and
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. Your health, your family should always come first. But in those situations, you do have to hire someone fairly quickly, and so having at least a backlog of good candidates that you've interviewed at times where you didn't necessarily have a position open can sometimes help hiring someone the same day, because like I said, sometimes some of these people are still looking for work, or they don't like the position they're at, and then you can have them start within a couple days, and then that breaks the the cycle of having to contact new people, scheduling the interview, interviewing them, and then so on and so forth. Right? You've already done all that within a couple weeks, so they're still the same person. I wouldn't go back a year or 2 years and find someone who was a good fit back then, because that's too much time for people to change, or for them to just not be a good fit as much as they were at that time. But within a month or two, I don't think there's any issues with it usually.
And are you personally using the hiring portion in your booking koala account? Do you kind of move your applicants in there?
So I don't. I use the Indeed system more than I do the Booking Koala one. To be quite honest, I haven't spent too much time on that section of it either. So it's not even just a matter of thinking that the Indeed one is better. It's just that's what I've known, and that's what I used even prior to Booking Koala including that, because if I remember correctly, it wasn't part of it when I originally joined Booking Koala in early 2020.
Yeah,
But
it's more of a recent feature, but I
yeah,
always like to ask for, general purposes to see what may be missing or what the reason.
I'd love to give you feedback. I haven't even really given it the time to be able to provide you with any sort of feedback regarding it.
That's
So
totally okay.
yeah.
What what's your hiring process look like from, I guess, from start to finish? You
Yeah.
have your application up,
Mhm.
uh, applicant sends it in.
Yeah.
What's your process?
So we'll go in and we'll look at all the resumes manually. We do have, for depending on the job, sometimes it's pretty easy to weed out some of the people, because some positions require a vehicle. So we have that set up as one of those custom questions that Indeed asks automatically whenever you click to apply. It pops up, and then they have to say, like, do you have a vehicle? Yes. And then the people who say no, or I take the bus, or things like that, for that position, they just wouldn't be a good fit, because it says it all over the job description anyways, that a vehicle is required. So those ones pretty quick. You can just X them out, or move them to possibly another position, or things like that. Once we find good applicants, we send them a message with a link. In the link, it's a calendar. So then from there, they can just select the time and day that works best for them. We tend to do resumes always on the same day every week, and we try to do it early in the day, because I heard from someone once before that it's good to do the interviews around the time that they would be starting work, because if they can't show up for that interview, they probably won't show up for work anyways. Not to say that, I mean, I could do interviews at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm sure people won't show up for those either. But it's just, I'm not sure. It's just something I follow.
No,
And so,
I've
yeah,
heard that, and I've also heard, I know other business owners that will be like, "Can you send me a text 30 minutes or an hour previous just to let me know that you're still that
right.
let me know that you are going to be on time." And if
Yeah.
they can't do that, and then they still show up, it's more kind of a they don't follow directions kind of.
Right. No, I like that. I like that idea. Yeah. I mean, at this point, anything, because and this is since pre-COVID, like going back to 2016 when I first opened the company. It's always hard to get people to show up for the interviews. You can get a lot of interviews scheduled, and I'd say about 50% end up showing up to do the actual interview and stuff like that. And so we've tried different things. We've done in person, over Zoom, by phone, whatever options work best, or that we tried to accommodate depending on the time that we were trying to hire someone. And there's not one that works better than the other. Even if you tell them that it's just a phone interview, the odds of them showing up to the phone interview as opposed to like in person, it was too similar to make any sort of changes. So we still do over Zoom interviews at the moment, at least for the first one. And what happens is we once they use that calendar link, they schedule their not their cleaning, their interview, then they automatically get a text and an email just confirming it, and then they sort of get put through that pipeline. So 24 hours before, they'll just get another reminder, and then 30 minutes before, they'll get another reminder, and then after the interview, if all goes well, then, like I said, if depending on where we're at, if we need someone immediately, then we try to hire as quickly as possible. If we're not hiring in that very moment, then they're put in a list, and then we grade the list based off of priorities.
You obviously do background checks.
Yep.
Test clean? Do you do a test clean?
We don't. So we don't. So here we can't really do test cleans. I know some spots in the States you're allowed to do. I think it's called the working interview or something, where people are allowed to, like, I guess you're allowed to work with them for the one day and as part of the interview and stuff like that. So we don't really get to do that at all here. You just sort of have to take the chance that they're going to be good just based off of what you know from the interview, and go from there.
What would you say is an automatic red flag on an application?
I mean, good for some people. Some people are very honest, and they'll tell you about, some situations where, I've heard that they've beat someone up for stealing and stuff like that, and like it's. I get what they're trying to say, right? Like,
Sure.
to them, it's more like, yeah, don't worry, like, I've got your company secured and stuff like that. But really, it's like, no, like, I'd much rather you just tell me so I can deal with it appropriately. But like red flag wise, people who, especially using Zoom, people who send me a message 5 minutes after the interview saying it's not working. It's usually a situation on their side, which not to say that technology doesn't fail. It's just that, at least for me, if I had an interview, I would make sure ahead of time, similar to like this here with you. About 2 hours ago, I logged in, I put all my information in, and then I did the entire steps to make sure that, like, my camera worked, my mic worked, and that everything was good to go. So as soon as you accepted it, then we'd be able to just go right into this, as opposed to waiting until 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes before the time of the interview to figure out that, your phone's dead or the Zoom's not working or things like that. Right. So to me,
Right.
that's a bit of a red flag. Also just people with short answers. I don't, even if they have 15 years of cleaning experience, if you can't say, hi, how are you? Good. So I always start off all the interviews with, tell me just a little bit about yourself, your past work experience, what you're up to right now. And it sort of gives them this free range of like sell yourself, right? Some people just say, oh, I've been clean 15 years, and then that's it. And then you just sort of stand there going, okay. But some people will go on and like, oh yes, this is me. I like to do this. I play sports. This is my past experience. This is, the school I did. And, those people, you're like, that is someone who I can have a conversation with, and someone who will fit in well with myself, the team, and our clients. And so that's the biggest red flag for me, honestly. It's just someone who stays quiet, or someone who just answers some of the questions with more what I feel like they want me to hear, and less about what their honest opinion is, because sometimes you can tell just based off of the answer that it's more of a constructed answer as opposed to just being natural, right? Like if you tell me that you're not sure how you would handle that situation, I much prefer that than you make up this massive story on how you saved the world. So to me, I guess that's the majority of it. Like I said, I hire a lot based off of personality, and very little based off of their past work experience. If they've even gone to school, like, to me, that doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Not to knock people who are quiet.
Yeah.
It's just, this industry is
exactly
customer service. It's half physical work when you're the contractor or employee, and the other half would be customer service. You are the face of the company. You are
exactly
going into these people's homes and taking care of their stuff. So if you can't have a conversation if the time arises with the customer, it doesn't look good back on the company and you as the
Right.
business owner. So
Yeah.
it's definitely huge. Marketing side, what are you currently doing for marketing?
Pretty much nothing.
Okay.
We let the company grow naturally more than anything else. I've done Google ads, I've done Facebook ads, I've done Bark. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bark,
Yep.
but like lead service companies. I've pretty much tried it all. At the moment, we just used word of mouth to grow, and we also have like business cards. All of my employees have business cards that they put their name on it, and then anytime someone books using that, they get 10% of the total booking. So it's little incentives like that help them sell as well. So it doesn't make me like I don't since we spend so much time in condos and apartments, we're in the elevator with people where there's people who are at the front door, everywhere. There's security guards at some buildings that ask us for business cards so that they can hand them out in case anybody asks for a referral, things like that. So I mean, it's very. I let almost my clients and my team do the advertising for us, which really costs me nothing more than the price of the business cards, and that's pretty much it for now, at least.
What was the most successful marketing campaign you've done? Or what was the most, not maybe not campaign, but avenue that you've used? SEO,
Mhm.
AdWords, Facebook?
Not none of those, in my opinion. It's really for us. It was once we got a client in a specific building, it was a matter of putting up a paper flyer on the where the bulletin boards, which tends to be either where the mail room or the garage floor, and people just rip off tags and stuff like that. And that's been the easiest way for us to grow and the most successful. And then, like I said, the business cards that my employees walk around with, that they get commission off of every, I guess, sale. Essentially, they they love doing it too, and it's not out of the norm for our clients to ask for a couple business cards, or while you're in the elevator they see us with our stuff and then they go, oh, you guys do cleaning, and it's like, yeah, here, just here's a business card, you can look online, we have our pricing, whatnot. And it motivates my employees to want to sell because they get a commission out of it, but at the same time it's also they're also the ones, like we said, they're the face of the company at any given time, outside of the office. And so it's great that they get to, and that they love being able to advertise for the company too.
Nothing works better than a direct referral from a
Yeah.
family or friend. They used it, they vouch for it.
That's it. Yeah.
It's not, nothing is better than that. I mean, my wife has a 40-ounce Stanley tumbler that I call it her weapon. She
Yeah.
carries it with her everywhere. If somebody told me to just read reviews online, I'd never buy it. I've been messing with her for the past 6 months about that, and
Yeah.
it's on my Christmas list, for God's sakes now.
Right.
So it's,
Right.
when it comes to marketing, word of mouth, referrals, nothing beats it. Of
Yeah.
course, try your Google AdWords, LSA.
Of
You
course.
could try those things.
Mhm.
They're meant to be there. But once you have your established base and you find the perfect clientele for you,
Yeah.
nothing better. Nothing
Yeah.
better.
Once our budget grows a little bit and stuff like that, I wouldn't mind. It's always because, I mean, there's a bunch of buildings that we might not have a client in at all. So those people tend to probably just Google, or maybe not Yelp as much today, but they find other means of finding clients and stuff like that. Where it would be nice to also have the opportunity with those ones. But for now, it's working. We're constantly growing using it, so it's not, if it's not, don't fix it if it's not broken, sort of thing. But eventually I would like to still at least at least maybe two more different avenues, whether that's local business or Facebook ads or something along those lines.
SEO is always great too because
Yeah,
it's a slow build up if you don't have a big budget at all, but it's something that if you learn it yourself, you could constantly be working at it when you have
right.
time. Um, with industry trends changing, how are you
Mhm.
staying updated on those?
So I tend to follow the other like local companies or even bigger franchises quite a bit. I've signed up to their newsletters or I follow them on Facebook and stuff like that. So it's always good to see where or what your competition's doing as well. I'm always looking to see if there's any other services that we can add. Like when COVID came around, there was the electrostatic disinfecting that was a big thing. Not so much anymore. But like anytime there's little spikes, it's good to try and be as early on as possible and beat out sometimes those bigger franchises where there's a lot more that needs to be put in place before they can start offering those services, as opposed to a smaller company. It could be done, within a day. Um, so yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just watching what some of your competitors are doing and going from there. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups as well that have different cleaning companies from all over the world, and they ask questions, and and we sort of had discussions about different topics or different softwares, things like that. So it's always you learn a lot from others, trying different systems, different softwares, different products, and then based off of their recommendations or stuff like that, you can choose to, if you're looking for a new bathroom cleaner and someone's using one and it's a miracle product and a bunch of people are vouching for it, well then you might as well try it, right? It
Yeah.
might help, and that goes the same thing for any software. And that's actually how I ended up with Booking Koala originally. Was someone had recommended it in one of those groups, and I was using a different software at the time, and then that led to being still using it over almost 4 years now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You your employees do the referrals or push for referrals. Do
Yeah.
you go to any networking events or do networking yourself?
Not directly. So recently, I actually purchased another company called One Call Services, and that company does more, I guess, things outside of what a normal cleaning company would. So like hoarders cleanups, bio cleanings. We work with like local police and stuff like that, and so that has brought a lot of business in for us as well, just because we have certain clients where let's say it was like a hoarder clean out. Well, we take all that stuff out, but then they want the place cleaned. I'm able to refer my other company. So it's like using the two companies to sort of refer each other, even though it's more one-sided than it is the other. But yeah.
That seems beneficial regardless.
Mhm.
Even if you own it or you didn't, partnering with other businesses that may not be directly related. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
directly related, you can't really share business unless you're overbooked.
Right.
But if you partner, I've mentioned before, with a pool cleaning and a
Yeah.
home cleaning service, those are two great, or landscaping or dog walking. Networking is huge
Yeah.
and free. I mean, for the most part, or very, very inexpensive. So those are
Yeah.
definitely avenues that I feel if you're starting out is one that should be
Mhm.
checked out because you're going to meet a lot of new people. They're going to give you tips and
Yeah.
business as well, potentially. Do you have, besides that one business that you purchased, do you have any partnerships with
Yeah.
other businesses?
No, nothing really. Like we early on, we I had met with a few like window cleaning companies and carpet cleaners and stuff like that, and I still refer them to this day if ever anything comes up. I can't say that I've noticed, like, nobody's messaged me saying like, hey, I've heard about you from these guys or anything like that recently. So I'm not 100% sure if it's being reciprocated, but it's more like, for us, I feel like we're more of a general cleaning company, so people tend to call us and say, "Hey, do you do window cleaning or like high-rise building, like the outside of high-rise buildings, like the windows and stuff?"
Okay.
Which is a completely different animal, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
no, sorry, we don't. But like, I can refer you these guys. I haven't worked with them directly, but they've I've met the owner before and things like that. But no, I can't say that we really partner up with any other companies or services or anything like that at the moment, at least.
How are you enhancing customer loyalty to get that repeat business?
I think it's just a matter of great customer service. We don't do any like sure, they get a recurring discount if they book biweekly, weekly, or monthly, but it's not. There's no 10 cleanings get one free or anything along those lines that we necessarily offer. It's just a matter of whenever they have an issue, you get back to them as quickly as possible. You send someone back. Not every complaint is necessarily a bad thing. Like sometimes when someone doesn't have a good experience with your company, it's as much the way you answer the complaint as it is the like the complaint itself. They're not always looking for a refund. They're not always looking for someone to come back and clean the area. Sometimes it's just that they're either a little bit frustrated, or they're just trying to help your company out, using those opportunities to even like add more foundation to that relationship with that client is huge. So I mean, I'm never looking for complaints, but when the complaints come in, like I use them as an opportunity. I don't just sort of ignore them, or even if they say like, it's not a bad review, I just want to point a few things out. I could just as easily ignore that message and like they'd be just fine with it. We would continue cleaning, and I could let the employee know, hey, you missed this last time, just don't miss it this time. But instead, it's if you answer back saying like, hey, I'm sorry we missed that area. Is it okay if I send someone by tomorrow or the next day to even just clean up that area or redo the area? And people will tend to, it'll add that extra layer to the foundation because they like the way you answered their request, even if they weren't necessarily looking for anything. It's more about them now trusting the company as much as they trust the person cleaning their home.
Not every, like you said, not every complaint is a bad thing, but what every complaint is a learning experience.
Absolutely.
You're gonna learn from every single one, no matter how small or how big it ends up being.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna figure out what to do for next time.
Yeah.
Social media.
Mm-hmm.
Are you big on social media with, marketing your business?
Yes and no. I've been lacking a little bit recently, to be honest with you, over probably the last couple months, if not a year. Before that, I did have someone who would post 3-4 times a week to social media, whether that was like Facebook, Instagram. I think we even tried Pinterest and LinkedIn and all of them. And I didn't see too much of a return on it, to be honest. I know I think it's one of those things, sort of like SEO, where if you keep pushing to it, eventually it'll come. It just wasn't in my budget anymore at that time to continue to have someone taking care of those tasks. And since then, I'll be honest, like I've sort of put it more on the backboard, even though I know it probably shouldn't. So yeah, so I mean, we're there. I've done giveaways. I've run it. There's maybe
So you
5 or
have
6.
you have the profiles, you have Facebook,
Right.
Instagram, stuff like
Yeah.
that, but you're just not doing the paid version of it. You're just kind of
Even
keeping updated?
even the updates, it's a little slacking, to be quite honest with you. Usually it's like I'll post on like Halloween, Thanksgiving, little things that have to do with, but there's definitely no weekly post or daily post or anything along those lines. It's definitely something, like I said, that I do need to get back into, because I do think it is a great tool, and I think Facebook is working more and more with like small businesses, more and more. Like on my own personal Facebook, things will pop up that'll be like, oh, because this person likes this, they'll show you, a post or something. And so in theory, like, let's say, I think the Facebook page is around 500 likes or something along those lines. So if it does that to all 500 of my likes, I post something and let's say they like it, and then that then shows it to someone else who might not be a direct like, but they at least still see the ad. So I think there is a lot of opportunity on it. I just haven't gone back around to getting into it yet.
It's a start. I mean, you should have it. At least there's that. The main thing is that you have the profiles. Because if somebody goes to just general Google search your business name, you're getting those profiles to appear on the first and second pages of Google. You're filling up those pages, which is something that I try to push for people who are just starting out.
Right.
Even if your focus isn't going to be social media, claim every social app with your business name, for one, so somebody else doesn't take it and start spamming people for, I don't know, for money under your business name and try scamming people. And two, it's so that when they look you up, they can see that you have all those different pages up, and that you are more than just a website.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like we have reviews on there, and there's really no reason that I'm not using it. It's an established Facebook page. It's just since probably probably within the last year or so, I've just sort of declined the amount of attention that I put on it, even though I probably shouldn't. It's something that I'll probably end up working back on very soon.
So would you say your strategy for managing growth would kind of almost be like hands off and seeing with how your employees do with the referrals and just trusting in their fantastic work to bring it in? Or
for the most part, yeah. Sorry. What was the other?
would you say there was more to how you're managing your growth?
Yeah, it's mainly like testing different business cards or different the flyers that we put up in the buildings, changing the design on those, finding things that work best. That's pretty much the extent when it comes to marketing that I have. The rest of it, I do sort of leave it a little bit hands off, and I'm still signed up on like Bark and stuff, and occasionally I'll go through. I didn't find that there was the best return on that. After using it for about a year, it just didn't sit well for me, and I wasn't too sure how the system gets the leads and whatnot. So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty
area dependent on those lead gen services. Thumbtack, Angie's, Yelp. Some places they still work fantastic. Other places not so much. So it's just kind of trial and error, and not blowing your budget completely.
Right.
If you can figure out that it's not working, don't keep going.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do you any good.
Yeah.
We touched on that, the customer complaints. How do you handle customer complaints and issues?
Yeah, so I mean, the majority for us come in three different ways. It's either a phone call, an email, or they use the review form that's sent to them following every job through Booking Koala. The majority of them go through that system, just because if you've been a client of ours for a long time, it's just automated, and after each cleaning they end up getting it, and so they just wait for that opportunity to just leave a comment. If it's something more pressing or urgent, then they tend to call or email. I get back to them pretty much immediately. That's the only thing that I don't let sit, even if I'm at home. I can still look at the subject line on the email, and usually you can tell pretty quickly what type of
Tone is
email.
huge in
Yeah,
email subjects.
yeah. So it's sort of like, okay, this is probably something I should look at now, and then I answer them as quickly as possible, because I do try to, instead of providing a refund, I do try to just send someone back to correct the job, right? And
For sure.
some instances, you do try to, you don't really have a choice, but I definitely try to rectify the issue first. And so, to me, as quickly as possible is the best, because sometimes people hire you a specific day for a specific reason. And so if, let's say you're hired, someone calls us to clean this Thursday, it could be because they have family coming over for the weekend or something. So if I can get someone in on Friday to just quickly fix that, fix those issues, or depending on how extreme it is, just redo the entire cleaning, then at least I know that client is going to be satisfied, or at the very least they have they can't badmouth it necessarily. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because as a company who has maybe 20, 30 reviews on Google, for example, one poor 1-star could make an impact, and it would, I don't get reviews constantly, so it would probably sit at the top, or at least within the top 10 for quite some time. And so if you can avoid those type of reviews at all costs, then we do whatever matters. Because even if I have to send someone back, and then maybe even offer partial or full refund if they're not completely satisfied, at the end of the day, not having that 1-star review, or having that 1-star review, could cost me a lot more than whatever their cleaning was worth. Again, like I said, there's within reasons. We always try to fix the issue first, but if we need to, we need to.
For sure. Do your best to rectify the situation
Absolutely.
as quickly as possible. But again, going back to earlier in this, when we said don't dwell on things too
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
if the customer's clearly fishing for a refund,
Yeah.
or if they're just unreasonable after you've offered a refund and they just want to be that person that leaves 1-star reviews everywhere, so be it.
It's a risk. Yeah. Yeah.
It's something you got to deal with.
Yeah.
You can publicly respond to all your reviews, no matter what platform you're using.
Yeah.
So as long as you give a good, I don't want to say rebuttal, but a good response to that, people with common sense will see that
and they'll read it. Yeah.
the customer was being unreasonable if you lay out all the facts in your response. Revenue side now, do you know how much revenue you've done in total since you've started in 2016?
Yeah, I have a rough estimate. When I was trying to think of that the other day, I'm around the 1.4 mark, 1.4 million.
Excellent. And what are you expected to do this year?
Just about 250, 260, 260,000, give or take.
Awesome. Great numbers. Besides revenue, what metrics do you track?
Yeah, so we track like the revenue's the big one. Expenses, obviously. So revenue to expenses, but I have a chart. Like we calculate regularly, once every 2-3 months. I'll go through using the Booking Koala time logs. I'll download all of those, and then I'll run them through to find the average per client, and then using that, then I'll put it into a spreadsheet that I've already pre-designed that has like, so how much my employees cost per hour, how much travel, about approximate travel distance, which then gives the what I call cost of goods sold, which is the amount of time my employees are out, like how much my employee costs of it, and then how much will go towards profit and overhead. And so that's something that we regularly do, because then I know where I need to adjust my pricing. If it's all if everyone's off, then I know it's an everyone problem. But usually you can tell by the percentage. So we estimate that about 50% goes to the cleaner, whether it's their hourly rate or I guess if you're using contractors, 50-50 is usually a pretty good number, if not 60-40 or whatnot. But whatever you choose, as long as you know what your what your cost of goods sold is, how much you want to pay your staff, then from that it's easy for us to figure out what clients are need to be adjusted, or if our cost of goods sold is at like 70%, then I know that we're only making 30, and then those people need adjustments, or we need to figure out what's causing the issue.
So
Sometimes
you pay your employees hourly. What
that's correct.
about charging customers? Are you doing square footage? Are you doing hourly? Do you flat
Yeah.
rate?
So we do flat rates based off of the amount of bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage,
Okay.
minus the extras there. So like if they want inside the fridge done and things like that, then we do have a list of extras as well.
And where are you percentage wise? What are you keeping net?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is 50% cost of goods sold, 30% overhead, 20% profit is sort of our rule of thumb. It's not always like anything between 50-60% cost of goods sold, I'm happy with. So anywhere between 50 to 40% essentially profit and overhead, then that's the number that we try to hit as much as possible.
It's going to fluctuate. There's going to be your high times and your low times. So that's, if there are people who are just getting in and you're kind of seeing that your numbers are not constant, they're not going to be. It's just how business goes. You're never going to be constantly at the same place. It's up and down. So
Right.
finding out when your high times and your low times are,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good indication for you when you could expect those changes. So that's something definitely to look out for. Financial management and planning. How do you approach that?
So we set budgets for like products, equipment, stuff like that. Besides that, that's pretty much the only thing that we really put, I guess, budgets towards. Everything else is done on the fly as much as possible. There are certain things that we know are each month, but then again, there are certain things that cost the same whether you have one employee or 50 employees. So as I grow, that number continues to go down, like the cost per employee sort of thing. But yeah, so I mean, it's the majority of our expenses are subscription based. So it's QuickBooks, Booking Koala, the I'm trying to think of what else. I'm drawing a blank, but we've got a few other systems out there. Pipeline. We have a few other systems.
Or whatever phone service.
Right, exactly. So all these things that just stay the same every month, and then it's more of a matter of how much revenue comes in. But then the nice part is the more jobs we have, the more products we use. So it's not really like products aren't something that we use more when we have less. So we grow as we require more products as we grow. So to me, when I see that, oh, you know what, I've had to buy products more often, that's not a bad, like, that's a great thing for me. That just means that we're that income's going up because we have more work.
Flip side, what are you doing strategy wise to manage your risk?
I mean, besides just constantly having like an emergency fund for pretty much everything, we have anytime where on like our good season when we're really busy, I buy extra vacuums, extra work bags, a whole bunch of extra stuff in the odd chance that that anything were to break when finances are a little bit lower, it's not as big of a hit, right? We use our vacuums Canadian end up costing us around $500-600 per, and when you're slower, sometimes those things can affect you a lot worse than when you're super busy. And so that's why when we have the funds for it, we try to purchase as much as possible ahead of time.
It's definitely great to have a backup account and know whether it's a backup financial account or in your like backup supplies.
Yeah.
If you're slow and something big hits you and you don't have that backup, it could be detrimental to the business and
Yeah.
and you moving forward and getting through that. So what early stages, it's not really viable because you might not have
Right.
the capital saved up, but
Yeah.
if you get to that point, that's definitely something that you should look at as a business
Mm-hmm.
owner to have,
Yeah.
I need to have a backup expenses, revenue in case
Yeah.
something goes down. Or if you have the employee model like yourself, have backup tools and things like that. So you're never stuck if it goes down during a slow time.
Right.
We talked again earlier about ways you strategize short-term and long-term goals, and you mentioned that you don't really have them as much anymore, but where do you see the business in the next 5 to 10 years, whether it's revenue wise or expansion wise? In your eyes, where would you like to see it in 5 to 10 years?
Similar to like the long-term goal I was talking about before, I'd love to be in another big city. In the next 5-10 years, I can't expect it to. I don't see it growing much bigger than moving it to maybe like one or two more cities. I'm not someone who wants to stretch myself out too thin, because then I feel like I'm just going to go right back into the having trouble with that work-life balance that I've worked so hard to get under control. But right now, it's still a fairly recent thing where I have someone else working in the office 30 hours a week, give or take. And so it's allowing me to focus my attention on other bigger picture things, which is bringing back that long-term goal a little bit more than when I was just answering emails and doing as much for the day-to-day that I didn't have much time to focus on growing it bigger. But I see it as a company. I think we'll probably still be within Ontario, which is our province here, but I would love to see it be in, give or take, 2 or 3 other cities, and it's slowly growing the same way it has been, and just I guess go with it that way. I'm not one to want to. I mean, if there's massive growth and everything works out perfectly, which sounds very unlikely, because usually when there's massive growth, there's massive headaches and whatnot. But I mean, if something were to happen and everything goes, bonkers, and we end up in all over the place, then great. I mean, I'm not against it, but I am someone who definitely focuses more on long-term growth. As far as I'm concerned, like I'm gonna have this company for a long time, and I'm only 28, so like for me, it's I've got a whole bunch of time for it to continue growing at the same pace, and as long as at some point it will start just the snowball effect. But I'm happy with the way it is, and if we can keep growing it slowly but surely, then as long as everything's going well and I don't lose touch with the company, then I'm great, because I've seen a lot of companies grow very quickly, especially in the cleaning industry, where or like remote work, right, where they just open offices everywhere, and their reviews tend to get impacted very quickly, and they end up just not being as successful as they were when they just stayed within the one area, and they were able to put all their intention into that one area, right? So it's not to say that I don't want to grow. It's just that I'm comfortable with the pace. And some people will probably say that like being comfortable in business is probably the worst thing you could ever be. But that's me today. I have like I said, I have that other company that I'm growing at the same time, and that one right now is requiring more attention than this one is. So it's as much about managing my time and letting other people grow the company for me, such as I mean, she's not here right now, but such as the my employee who works for me part-time in the office. She's the one who's doing the phone calls, getting as many clients as possible now and things like that. So she's essentially growing it, which was the point, in hopes that I can let other people who might even be better than I am. I selected her for that role because I saw that, one, she's been with me for a long time, but two, she also has that same love for the company as I do, and she might be even a little bit more outgoing, and she's able to get into different areas or different people that I might not be either comfortable or even able to get into. And so I think it'll be good for the company, and I do think that we'll probably see some a decent amount of growth as a result of me giving someone else a lot of my old day-to-day tasks.
It's huge when you get somebody that has just as much passion for the business as the owner. And if you get somebody with more, even better. But with you touching on being, I guess, complacent, you have three things down. You're happy.
Yeah.
You have the great work-life balance that you want, and you're still growing. So you can't. Nobody could be upset or whatever. That's their thing, because this is your business. You're happy, you got a good balance, and it's growing.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for?
It's pretty much what I'm thinking.
Going now towards the software side, what role does tech play in your business ops?
Huge. It's pretty much everything. At this point, we use Booking Koala for scheduling and customer management. We have our everything up to like our phone line. Our company phone line is what's it called? A voice over IP number. So it's everything that we use within the company at this point has all been connected one way or another.
And you started the cleaning service in 2016.
Correct.
You found us through a Facebook group somebody mentioned in 2020.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you've seen a bunch of additions and changes to the software since you joined.
Yeah, I've tried pretty much all the big companies that come to mind when you think, or when you Google, say, like cleaning software, whatever the case is. I've pretty much tried them all for a decent amount of time each, not just the trial. There was a period of time where not every single one had exactly what I wanted, and so I would actually jump ship depending on what I needed in those moments. And then I would look at the pros and cons, where like some had an online booking system, but this one here would send better reminder emails or be more flexible on, things like that. And then I justify like, okay, well, which one's more important for me in that moment? And so because of that, I got the chance to try a lot of different softwares. And Booking Koala is the one that I've been with the longest, for sure, because it has everything that what we needed in those moments. And but yeah, I've definitely tried everything, and I've even seen Booking Koala sort of grow from what it was, and in certain aspects I've grown. Like Booking Koala has the like you can create a website through the through the system itself. At some point, I really like that. That's what I used at the beginning. But at some point, I realized that, I need a WordPress website now that gives me a little bit more flexibility and things like that. But I've pretty much, at the very beginning, that was the only thing. I had an email address and I had a Booking Koala account. When I restarted and reopened and opened Highrise, when we technically closed or renamed Get It Made, it was just an email address and Booking Koala, and the rest sort of just worked its way from there.
What drew you into using it, and why would you say? Because you said you jumped around from all the softwares. Was there one specific thing that you saw that made you come in?
Yeah, it was the way that the online booking system, and the fact that you were able to manage it very well with contractors. Remember, at that time when I first joined, I was still in that mindset of running it more like an agency as opposed to running it as like a cleaning company alone with employees. When a job comes in, it can be sent off to multiple people and then they accept it and so on and so forth. And the system could really run a company hands off if that's the way that you want to run your business. It definitely has all the features in place for you to just have one or two contractors, and then if jobs come in, it just automatically sends it off. But so that's the main thing that had intrigued me about it, was the ability to work remotely and do all that sort of stuff. And then when I figured out that I didn't want to do the whole contractor method anymore, then it was just as easy to switch it over so that bookings still come in, but now I'm a little bit more hands-on. So instead of it just sending off an email to all my employees, it's more like, okay, the booking comes in, they've already selected a time slot that my employee's working that day, so it automatically like confirms it and so on and so forth. Where when you're working with contractors, you can't just assume they'll be available Monday morning at 9 a.m., right? So it in a few easy steps, I was able to convert it to something that worked for my company now. And to this day, it sort of just keeps, it still does the exact same thing as it did day one. And it just manages all my schedule for me and all my employees and everything like that.
What would you say now is the number one feature that you couldn't live without besides the booking form and the scheduling?
Okay. Oh, besides the schedule, eh?
Yeah.
Biggest feature that I can think of.
The number one, in your eyes, the number one feature that would be for you.
One of the other main reasons that we switched over from the software we used prior to was that QuickBooks integrates with you guys. Like I said from one of the earlier questions, the accounting aspect, to me, it's a very dreadful process. I'm not someone who likes to necessarily do accounting, and so when you find a system that automatically takes the bookings once they're completed and then shoots it over to QuickBooks, and it's just a matter of matching the transaction to the to your bank records, it's easy. It takes no time. And so for me, that's a huge one, which I was actually kind of surprised not every single booking software actually does. Some team up with other companies, like other accounting softwares, but for me, I was with QuickBooks, and so for me, that was the most important part, was having that connection that worked. It shows up in QuickBooks correctly. It's not like it just batches and then marks it as like Booking Koala is the customer, and then there's $100,000 in transactions. It's really like it brings in the clients, brings in the description.
John Smith was X amount.
Yeah, exactly. And then it also all the information from the booking shows up on there too. So even if I do need to reference something sometimes and I'm in QuickBooks already, I don't have to open up booking koala to look at, I could just look at the client in QuickBooks and it'll show me, okay, that's the last day they had their cleaning, and that's what the job was, because it really brings in all the info, so that my accounting can look at it, and if needed, I guess CRA, which is our Canada Revenue Agency, similar to the IRS, would be able to look at it too. So I know that was a big thing for me, and actually I just remembered that part about one of the I would even put that as the main reason that we switched
That
over.
you switched.
Yeah. The booking, the schedule, online booking feature was definitely one of them as well. The last one we had didn't have that system, and then there was also the pricing. The booking koala was far more competitive when it came to the pricing and the website aspect of it. Early on, that was a huge plus, having everything just into the one system instead of having expenses all over the place. It was just $100 a month, and we had, or even less actually, I think at that time, and we had everything that we needed to run a business.
Flip side of that, what's one feature that we don't have that you wish we did, or you're currently waiting on that or in development with?
One of the things that would be nice to see is like and some of the other companies, the other softwares had this, and so I think it would be a nice addition, is whenever there's a, say, monthly or biweekly or weekly booking that's already set up for a client, you can click add a visit instead of having to create an entirely new entirely new I guess booking, which would then, if you click like one time, well, then the price is more, so then you have to adjust the price and do it that way instead of just clicking add a visit. Then it'll keep the same monthly schedule that was already there. It's just that we can add that extra cleaning whenever, and it doesn't affect the remainder of the ones, and the pricing is still the same, or things like that,
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look into getting that added in. I don't know if you've sent it in to us yet. For the
I
feature
don't think so.
request.
One of my favorite parts so far with booking koala has definitely been the amount of things that I've asked for and the amount of things that have actually come true. And so like it's speaking with the support staff there has been super easy, and you guys always respond to my emails with answers super quickly with what I'm looking for. And sometimes it's just user error more than anything else. I'm just, the feature is there, I just don't know where to find it, and so they just quickly like, oh yeah, this and that. Or sometimes it's like they just respond back saying, yeah, Patrick, it's done, and I'm like, oh, okay, great, so I guess everything can be done on the back end. And so no, it's a great software for sure.
Excellent. Final question here.
Yes.
Makes you think a little bit, but it should be easy. What advice are you going to give, or would you give your 10-year-old self
10-year-old
now that
self,
you know everything that you know, whether in life or in business, either or?
Yeah. Wow. See, I think it would be, business isn't everything. Like, it's a lot, but it's not everything. And so going back to like that work-life balance, I know I emphasized a lot on how I have it today, but there was a time where like I was not necessarily in a very good place because of how much my brain focused on work. You start to forget about friendships or relationships or whatever else goes on around you, because you're so focused, thinking like, okay, once this is successful, like it won't matter, right? Like everything will go back to normal, and so on. And then you realize that like, well, sometimes you can't really be successful without the support of others, and then pushing people away for business, not always a good the right way to do it. And so I would just say like, have fun with it, just enjoy life, and just whatever happens. And I think that's,
Don't take it too seriously.
Don't take it too serious. Don't take yourself too serious either.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Patrick,
just be yourself.
It's been a pleasure. It's always eye-opening to hear everybody's stories around the world, whether it's here in the US, Canada, Australia, everybody's got something new to share, whether it's business related or personally related, you know. So it
Yeah.
was awesome hearing your side and getting to know you and being able to share your story with all our viewers.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and honestly, like it was fun. It was eye opening for me as well to be able to sort of go through back where, like, questions from the beginning to where I am today, and whether that's personal and business. I'm thank you very much for the opportunity.
No, of course. Everybody stay tuned for next week's episode and we'll see you then.